Earlier this year, Coral Magazine interviewed 5 different filtration companies for an article that came out in this issue right here. This is the March-April edition of 2024, and I wanted to read to you the opener because it kind of sets the stage for what you're about to watch. With just a few weeks from inception to a print deadline, Coral editors Marc Levenson and Matt Pedersen set out on an audacious project. Interview 5 marine aquarium industry veterans with diverse insights into saltwater aquarium filtration. What follows is the result of over 10 hours of raw footage, nearly 109,000 spoken words, perhaps a few all-nighters, well over a century, maybe 2, of collective experience, and unprecedented candor from the leaders behind the iconic brands Reef, Bashsea, MRC America, Reef Aquaria Design / ChemiPure, and RK2 Systems. Hey everyone, we are here to interview Steve Bashi from Bashsea. I almost said it correctly. Anyway, I just wanted to get into it. Steve, so much for coming on. Matt Pedersen is here as well. We are talking to you from Coral Magazine, and we're going to talk about aquarium filtration with you because we wanted to get some of your insights since you've been doing this for a while. So the very first question is, how long have you been doing this?
Okay, this is a good question. I guess, to be honest with you, since the age of 15, what I can honestly say, since when I was 15 was actually my first saltwater tank, which was a reef tank. And at that point, I literally custom designed, and at that time had a local acrylic guy like yourself, Mark, right?
Yeah.
I drew something up and had it custom made. Even back then, I was 15. And what's hilarious, it was all black and blue. It literally very similar to what you see now was done when I was 15. I'm 48 now, so if we did the math,
that's more than 10 years. I'm not good at math
more
on
than
camera.
10 years. Yeah. So like literally that's when that started. But realistically, I had a retail store when I was about 22 years old called Ocean Life. It was the first saltwater or marine life only store in Michigan. We only sold, obviously marine life, no freshwater. That very low on budget, so everything we made, and that's really when I started playing around with making my own filters because we did everything, did all the plumbing. So that was so right about 21 years old, I started really kind of playing with it a little bit, making filters, and the store was open for like 5 years. And then I started the Ultimate Aquariums, which is still going on now. Ended up being one of the largest, custom design groups in Michigan. That's so. I guess how do I word it? At that point, and this was probably around 21 years ago. I just didn't like any of the filter systems that were available then. Either function or aesthetics. And I'm a big aesthetic guy, obviously. I always compare filters to the engine of a car. I always say that. So like when you got a hot rod aquarium, I think the engine is the filter, and the engine should look like a hot rod. So that's where all of those ideas came from. So at that point, I just started playing around with making my own filter systems, but just for my own installs, not for anybody else. Nobody saw them but me. I just wanted my own designs and my own ways of thinking how filters should be. And a couple local stores started seeing them. Other maintenance companies started seeing them. So they started asking me to build them. So all this was, I'm just building all this stuff in my living room, honestly, for years.
That was me.
I mean, that's where it started. It's no joke. Yeah. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have any tools. I didn't have any machines, obviously. Everything was like very caveman-ish, but that's the only way I knew back then. And so I made it work. And then it just started kind of getting out of hand. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll just start my own line and start making them, blah, blah, blah. And I just thought of the word Bashsea just because it's kind of my last name, obviously, with a twist. And that's kind of where it started, 20-something years ago when I started actually doing it for other people, you might say, than myself or what have you. And then here we are, right?
Yeah, that's
3
great.
shops later,
Do you still have the reef tank?
Oh no, that's long gone. That was 15 years old. It was a 150-gallon tank. So, long story short, my whole bedroom. I grew up in Madison Heights, Michigan. Very lower middle class type of scenario. my entire room was all small aquariums, like 7, 8 fish tanks. Everywhere was a fish tank and a drum set. That's all I did was play drums and played with aquariums. And my dad just got fed up with all the aquariums. He's like, "There's too many fish tanks. I got stuff plugged in everywhere. You know how it is back then,
Sure.
extension cords and power strips." He said, "You get one aquarium. So you get one aquarium and that's it." So I went and got a 150-gallon glass tank. And so it was more gallonage than I had,
Right.
all those 7 tanks. And I said, I'm gonna do saltwater. And that's when I just jumped right into the Reef aquarium. I just
Hmm.
fell in love with that so hardcore. And there's, back then there wasn't that many places to get coral, where there's like 2 or 3 shops or something.
Right.
But and that's it, man. I've had many since, trust me, obviously, but
Yeah.
I come home now to just my parrot, a big bird, and I have 10,000 gallons of corals and livestock at my shop, so I don't need them at my house anymore.
So, is there anything that you fabricate in your factory that you've made work for the parrot?
For the parrot,
Yeah, is there something underneath the engine for the parrot? I don't know. Did you think of
the,
some insane thing?
for my bird,
Yeah.
the only thing I've made him, it's funny, it's insane that you're even asking that, is I've made toys, just acrylic toys. That's
There you go.
about it.
Yeah.
He goes like any kind of B grade. He loves probe holders, by the way. His favorite toy is a probe holder. He goes ape shit over it. I'm not kidding. It's because it's 3/8 acrylic,
Yeah.
and I mean, believe it or not, he can snap it like it's chewing gum, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a big bird. It's a big bird, but
Yeah.
so yeah, because you can a lot of parrot toys are acrylic.
Yeah.
So I just drill holes, and out of all and obviously we have miles of scrap and drops
Right.
from the laser machine.
Sure.
Why waste it, right? So why
Yeah.
not make an acrylic mess in my house?
Right.
It's funny though, yeah.
Oh, what kind of parrot? What kind of parrot do you have?
It's a hyacinth macaw.
Oh, nice.
If you know
Those are
what it
beautiful.
looks like.
I do.
Beautiful.
Yeah, the all blue, just the
All
little
blue.
yellow highlights,
Yes,
black
yeah.
beak. It's blue and black. That's your thing, blue and black all the way.
It is, yeah,
It
yeah.
is.
I've had many birds. I'm an animal guy. I've used to keep a ton of reptiles. I've bred them. I've had an entire room of parrots. I've bred many parrots. I've just anything with animals. Believe it or not, fish are always number one. Birds were a close second. I really, really love parrots and birds, and reptiles are right up there too. But anything in water always just pumps my blood. There's nothing better to me. If I see anything, like even a goldfish tank, if I see one today, I love it. There's it's just like I'm still a kid. My head is still a child. And I remember catching tadpoles and raising all that stuff is really this still excites me, actually. Anything in water is the best. Never
Well, then,
get sick.
That leads me to an extra question that's not on the list. Are you
Yeah.
building things for the freshwater side?
I'm gonna say I always have. Maybe it's not marketed that way, which is maybe on me. Obviously, is obviously a lot of freshwater hobbyists, especially I'm gonna say the last 10 years, but a lot more the last 5 to 7. A lot of them are using sumps now. A lot of freshwater people are using sumps, so we sell a lot of sumps. For freshwater, I get a lot of emails. Hey, I have a freshwater tank, but I don't know what sump you have.
Yeah.
That is for freshwater, and realistically, there's no sump that's just for saltwater.
Right.
Right? Isn't it? It's just basically a box in a weird way. Mechanical filtration.
Yeah.
It's got your basic drains, mechanical filtration, and a couple of openings for basically the end user to interpret how they want to use it for their specific situation. So we've been doing a lot of freshwater inquiries, sending them out, and then obviously media chambers are used a lot for freshwater with carbon and different even biomedias.
Okay.
Our bioreactor is really popular with the freshwater guys because it's strictly an amazing bio machine, and that can be used for, which honestly, it's not like I invented the bioreactor. I just kind of made it smaller and cooler looking for the hobbyist. I'm a big koi guy, Japanese koi, probably one of my favorite things ever. So I started building huge bioreactors for my koi ponds, and then I just started making them smaller. Then I got my own media made, which is why you see red and blue media, stuff you never really see. Again, I'm a details guy. You can probably see it in the work that, all those little things, I like to match everything really, really nice. Everything's a suit and tie type filtration type thing.
Yeah. So when you say media reactor, I think you said that. God, you already said something different. My brain was trying to keep up. Caldness, is that what you're using? The little wheels?
It is yes and no, but it's exactly like caldness, but it's my own version of caldness. It does have a little bit more surface area than caldness,
Okay.
but growing up, I made all my filters for my koi ponds out of caldness, K1 and K3.
Okay.
Is what I mix with huge, we're talking 6-7 foot bioreactors for like 10,000 gallon ponds and stuff. So it's the same theory, same biological theory, same everything, just with my little twist on it,
So Steve, can you explain what the bioreactor is? I know yours is kind of unique. I have a few of them here.
Yeah.
And
we did. I forgot about the Banggai rescue. Remember the Banggai rescue?
I still I still have all that gear that you see when we set up the hatchery. Mark, you don't have that picture handy, do you? That one that I sent you.
Come on, Mark. This is ridiculous.
Stand by. Please stand by. I have an idea. Hang on. Please stand by. Let me do this. Here. Boom. Go.
There we go.
Oh, okay. So while Mark is digging up that picture,
if he did have that right away, that would have been pretty amazing.
What I remember, from those bioreactors, basically you have the water coming in to twist and turn the media, and then you have the air coming up from underneath to help tumble the media. And what I found was the most just ingenious part of all that was that if I haven't had a power outage here, I could just keep the air running through, and that media would remain. All the bacteria would remain viable. But so for folks who don't understand what the bioreactor is, can you? Oh, there from Banggai Rescue. Yes, now it's there.
Yeah, it's the skimmer. I remember
one of the skimmers. The laser etching on the
so
cover
cool.
of that thing. The flames coming up the side.
That was badass, dude.
It is. I mean, it still is.
Talk about hot rod, right?
Yeah.
The flame job is just
that's all done by hand, by the way. That's not even a sticker. Like it's I go all out. The problem is, honestly, if you know me or don't know me or anything about me, is that I'm a very extreme person. So when I do something, I'm the guy who turns it up to 11, right? You know what I mean?
Yep.
If I'm do something, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna step outside my own comfort zone and try to do something that I've never seen done before. Just kind of take it past all these, limits. And that's anytime you have an idea, it's really cool to see it come through. And as you do, I know a lot of people that have ideas, but they don't do anything with them. And I think that would be very frustrating for a guy like me. So when I have an idea, whether it's a good or bad idea, and I've had a lot of bad ones, at least I try them, and then I can really say they're bad when I'm done. But if you never do them, then what's the point? They're all bad ideas or try, right? But as far as the bioreactor, it's pretty simple, I guess. It's obviously just the biological process. Basically, I don't think we have to explain that. It converts all the fish waste right down to the nitrate, and the nitrate can be converted in 100 different ways, right? But basically, it's what I call the counter current design, which is why it works really, really well. The water enters, through the top. The dirty water enters through the top. All the living bacteria colonizes the media, obviously. So water has to force through all this media that's constantly tumbling, and all the live bacteria is obviously absorbing all the waste. And the water, with the air doesn't just tumble the media. It also pushes the water back up to the top. So it actually kind of creates where the dirty water is in contact with the media for as long as possible, like dwell time, I call it. The more dwell time the water has in a skimmer or in any kind of filter, the more, I say efficient it will be, and the more, the water coming out is that much better or cleaner. But it's the air and the water, the way the bacteria kind of works is the bacteria has a lifespan. It's young, and then when it's young to middle age, you might say, living bacteria, it absorbs a lot of waste like quickly because it's growing, like almost like a child or a small bird or a small fish, right? So it's absorbing a lot weight-wise. As it becomes mature or old, like Matt, see that?
I'm the youngest guy on this call.
Hey, if this interview is full of lies, I'm ending it now.
I really am the youngest guy on this call. That's hysterical.
That's funny.
I'm just gray, that's all.
So like, as the bacteria ages, and then it's fully adult, it feeds a lot less. It eats a lot less of the fish waste because now it's not growing; it's just maintaining. It's eating just enough to maintain. So when the media is bouncing around all over the place, the bacteria is kind of getting cut off or slothed off the actual media, so it breaks it. So when you injure it, it regrows. So but the bioreactor is like a self-cleaning bio machine, you might say. I always say it's constantly self-cleaning, and it constantly regenerates young bacteria constantly 24/7. So it's always absorbing a ton of fish waste at all times because it always has kind of every stage of bacteria types. Does that make any sense, or am I terrible at explaining?
Well, I've got two questions on this piece of equipment because I've never run it. Matt has it, you know it, you built it. But first of all, the first question is the curlicue. Why is it doing that as the water goes through the injector?
Oh, that's the skimmer you're talking about.
Oh, that's what I showed was a skimmer. It wasn't the reactor.
That was a protein skimmer. The bioreactor is a tall chamber.
You didn't see me that.
No, I didn't. But it has a water entry at the top that kind of, I believe the way you have it drilled, it actually aims it diagonally, so it spins the media.
Okay,
and it kind of creates a circular flow in that chamber as it goes down towards the bottom where it's going to exit. Okay. And then you have a what would you call that? Like a manifold, or it's like that rubber piece where you feed the air in. It's
depending on that might be like a commercial one, which is like it's a rubber membrane air stone basically, which never clogs. So we use those in a lot of commercial because an air stone would end up, especially in salt water, you'd constantly have to change it. It would clog up with calcium and bacteria itself. So we use the rubber ones sometimes as they are no maintenance and they never clog. So just basically like the air, basically.
Yeah, there's this big round rubber air stone in the bottom of all of mine. And I'm using my fish rooms. I've got a big air pump, so it's just rocking air into that thing. And there's a vent at the top to allow the air to escape. And then kind of like what I was saying is, like, if I shut down the pumps, even like if I'm just doing maintenance and I shut down the water flow, the air is still going through. That bacteria is still receiving oxygen. It's just sitting there. And my fish room's air pump only uses 65 watts of energy. So you can run that on a backup for a while, even probably a luff pump is strong enough to do one of the reactors I have. And that's 7 watts. That's nothing. So
it's pretty. Like if you remember, like maybe some old school, say remember like people use like not really a sand filter, but a fluidized filter, but it would be sand.
Yeah.
But
the fluidized beds.
They still use them all the time in public aquariums. It's huge models. But when the power goes out, that sand compresses down, and literally within an hour, 95% of the bacteria is going to die because it has no oxygen. So with the bioreactor, the power can be off for hours and even days, and you still probably won't lose that much bacteria.
Wow, that was actually my next question. Was like, well, how long can it be out? Because yesterday someone contacted me and they didn't have power for 11 hours. Would that have been enough to kill the bacteria in such a reactor?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
Especially if they could run the air through it still, even on a small,
to avoid stagnation.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
That media is really open for anyone who knows, like, who hasn't seen a bio or a call, well, your media or called media, we were talking about it. It looks like rotini. It looks like pasta, like little short,
pasta.
Pasta with texture and
or penne. Yeah, I call it biomass. Is what I call mine, is biomass.
Okay.
Very similar to caldness, just has it's like 13% more surface area. What I was trying to do basically is, because caldness is always used in huge chambers, so you could always get enough of it, but I'm trying to squeeze these little small bioreactors underneath somebody's cabinet, but still have them to be efficient. Yeah. So the more area the media has, the smaller the chamber can be, but still remain efficient. So my goal was to let me just get as much surface area as possible in this media for that person with a really small tank or what have you, or very little space but needs something with high efficiency type of situation. And we did that. It worked out really well.
Now you talked about old versus young bacteria, and I'm just wondering, and I'm not trying to be argumentative, I'm just thinking of another possibility, and I'll bounce it off you just to get your reaction. Could it just be there's 1 million bacteria, there's 10 million bacteria? Could it just be there's more of the bacteria and now there's less, and so it's maintaining because it's not abundantly becoming more and more propagated?
I mean, yes and no, but picture the media. Let's just say the media itself is it's mature. So it only has a certain amount of surface area. So once it becomes fully colonized, you can't colonize any more than that.
Okay. All right, it's limited.
So, I mean, picture like a cubic foot of media that's fully colonized, but all the bacteria is fully also adult, you might say. So it's just going through its maintenance. So that's going to absorb a lot less fish waste than the same exact amount of media, but with young bacteria, middle age, and more of that type of stuff. But I know what you're talking about. I know what you were getting at. Yeah.
All right. Is this thing designed for fish-only systems?
It's a lot of people think that, but I would say put it this way. I always say it's the equivalent of adding live rock to a tank, but without any of the negative aspects of live rock. You know what I mean? Because there's no pest, there's no pulling it out of the ocean, there's no issue with algae spores, there's no, all those hitchhikers, we call them, right, with live rock. Right. So it's basically just a biological process. It's the most basic process. I mean, you guys for sure, but it's also the most important process in a tank. If you don't have enough biological removal, you have a very unstable aquarium. The water quality goes up and down. That's why you see people crash aquariums, because the more bio you have in a tank, the more fish you can keep, the more you can feed, and not have issues with spikes and stuff like that. So the question was, what exactly? I totally.
I was saying, is it for fish only? That's what I was wondering. But you seem to indicate it works for the reef.
Yeah, it's no different, because a reef tank is no different than a fish-only tank, because it's not going to harm coral. And if you have, especially today, let's say the modern-day reef tank, I think it's a lot different than it was 15 years ago. Like 15 years ago, it was a ton of live rock built like a brick wall. Yeah, you're right. And then with some coral and some fish type thing. Today, it's a lot of fish, a ton of coral, and almost no rock. It's very minimal. If you look at a lot of the scaping, is like very bonsai-ish, very minimal rock work. But still, if you want to put a lot of fish in that environment, what's going to remove that waste? Besides a bunch of water changes, you see a lot of people ran into using like biopellets. You guys clearly know about biopellets, because there were so many problems with phosphate and so many problems with nitrate. Again, because there was a lot of fish, a lot of bioload, but not enough actual biofiltration to kind of handle that, you might say. So, the bioreactor is what water, salt water, brackish water, reef tank, none of that matters. It's really just about stabilizing biologically your actual water. So we've been doing a ton of bioreactors for reefs the last 4 or 5 years. And you're right. Before, I think most people thought it was only for fish only. A lot of fish breeders would make huge ones for fish farms and stuff like that, or just fish only tanks. But lately it's been a lot of reef tanks, and they're seeing the benefit of the live bacteria getting spit back into the aquarium. And actually, they say corals might be feeding on the live bacteria, because if live bacteria is in the water and you got all these polyps out there grabbing anything in the water that's alive, so we're getting a lot of that. We're like, man, my tank is killing it now, with the bioreactor. And it takes a couple of months. I think, Matt, you know that. It takes 2-3 months to mature one, realistically. Yeah. And then it really and then again, you don't ever touch it. You never clean it. You never replace any parts. So it's when I say it's a zero maintenance, it really is a zero maintenance filter. It's not something, the biomedia doesn't dissolve, right? That type of thing. But we're getting a lot of reef tanks now with the bioreactors, and it's going really, really well. Wow.
So that kind of segues into one of our stock questions over here on the on our list of questions. At this point, do you have, what are the differences when someone's talking to you about filtration? What are you doing differently if they're coming at you with, I've got a 500-gallon fish only versus I've got a 500-gallon reef aquarium? Is there any difference between what you're recommending at this point?
I would say yes, but I don't really. It doesn't matter to me, and it shouldn't matter if it's a fish only or a reef tank for the most part. What I end up asking them is what exactly are you keeping? What's going to be your bio load? I think that those are the more important questions to me. Is this going to be a lot of coral and a few fish? Is it going to be a lot of coral and a lot of fish with 3 feedings a day? Or is this an aquapora tank where you need, like, as you know, super sterile water, very, very, stripped of everything water for the most part for acro to, most acro to thrive or what have you. So, or is it a soft corals? If it's a fish only tank, are you doing aggressive fish? I ask a bunch of different questions just so, like, let me know exactly what you plan on doing, and then I kind of design a system that's probably going to be the best for that. And the only changes most of the time is make sure I size the skimmer right, size the bioreactor right, and sometimes, hey, you might need a couple of media chambers or something because you're going to end up with so much waste that you might want to run carbon once a month for a couple of days or what have you. And it's just easier in a media chamber than it is in a sock or something like that. But most of the time I ask them, because I'll put it this way, I know you guys fully understand this. If someone comes to me or you, say, I have a 1,000-gallon aquarium and I have 25 fish in this aquarium, I'm going to feed them twice a day, and you're going to recommend this filter. If someone comes to you and says, I have a 200-gallon aquarium, the same 25 fish, and I feed them the exact same amount a day, there is zero difference in your filter. Because the gallons of the tank really don't matter. It's the livestock, the amount of feedings and all that stuff. That's really what matters. Because a 1,000-gallon tank with 25 fish is no different than a 200-gallon tank with the same 25 fish. It's the same bio load is what I mean. So I kind of those are the questions I ask them. What are you keeping? Yeah. When I say what are you keeping, what are you going to keep? What's your end goal? What is this aquarium going to look like 2 years from now? Because we have to design the filter for that, not today.
For the mature tank.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then can you? It sounds like what you're telling me is you could easily under filter, undersize, but if you put in excess capacity, that would never really be a problem.
Never. There's no such thing as my water is too clean. I have too much biological filtration in my tank. That's impossible. You can only have not enough, and not enough is a big problem. That's when you have crashes and algae problems and fish getting sick. You'll stunt fish growth. All these different issues are going to happen with terrible water quality. So I always say you always get the biggest sump you can either fit and or afford. Yeah. That's always. I mean, have you ever had a sump that's too big? Does that make sense? No one ever has a sump that's too big.
No, actually, I know of a tank that was really, really tiny. It's up there in Minnesota or something, and it was 3 feet long, and maybe it was 15 gallons, and had like a 40-gallon sump with all the equipment and the Trident and the Apex, and it was amazing. and it was a huge sump on a little tiny body of water for a really pretty display.
Exactly. And with what's cool about that, it's a great example, is he had no limits on what to put inside that tank because of the system he put together.
Yes.
And but if it was reverse, just a really small filter on a big tank, you're going to end up with very, very high maintenance.
Yeah.
You're going to be with sick fish, a lot of water changes. You're chasing water quality. You know what I mean? You're spending hundreds of dollars and thousands of dollars on chemicals and crap that we really don't want to use. We want the water to be as natural as possible, in my opinion. We want the natural biological process to happen and not try to cheat nature with chemicals, because at the end of the day, I think that ends up always blowing up in our faces. And I don't think it's good for the animals, to be honest with you, you know. But no, you can never over filter, you know, the water can never be too clean. It can, you know, that type of situation. So, so I always say that, you know, get the largest sump you can either fit and or afford. That's your choice. I can make that choice for you. And then let me know what you plan on keeping. And then I always design, and I always over design. I'm always going to go the next step up, because most people, you know, once they get going, they just keep buying fish and they keep feeding, you know, it doesn't end, you know. So you want to buy a skimmer that's a little bit oversized, or you want to buy a bioreactor that's oversized. You want to, just because you want to have that like safety net, you might say, you know, just in case type thing. If someone accidentally dumps a bunch of food in your tank, or you have a big anemone die and you're out of town, you know, it doesn't crash your entire tank because your filter was kind of ready for it, you know. So that's kind of my way of thinking. It's a little bit different than I think some people.
Oh, that's great. I think kind of answers one of our questions we were going to ask, right, Matt?
Which one? Well, which one?
Well, I'm trying to multitask over here, but I don't think you did. Did you do the question, what does successful filtration look like? What type is more likely to fail?
I know, but you kind of just answered that question there. Like,
that's what I'm saying. I think he just answered it. I think he just told
like,
that was what I was saying.
I think what you got at there with the like talking about the anemone crashing, you know, like if your skimmer is just keeping up and then something happens, you're toast. If you're already maxed out on the biological capacity of whatever filtration, wherever that's happening, you don't have that buffer for the disaster. So if you've overbuilt your biological filtration to have capacity to spare, and you know it's like if you're going 1,000-mile trip, but you know you have enough gas to go 1,500, you know, you've got that reserve capacity. I think that's really what you're getting at.
Yeah, just in case you had to reroute yourself where you needed to go 1,400 miles, and you know you're not screwed. But you're right, like, and a lot of systems, I'm telling you, they are. And it really bothers me. I think people they'll spend thousands of dollars on fish and amazing coral, and then you see their filter system, and it just looks like, you know, it just looks like a mistake. It looks like one mistake after another, right? You know what I mean? It's like it looks like 10 different bad ideas, you know, and all of them at one time.
Yeah.
And you know, people sometimes, you know, but you know, these days people are really getting into the life support, and that's my favorite thing. I love looking at some of that stuff that's happening now that we've been doing for a long time. But you're right. If your water if your skimmer is just keeping up, adding one more pellet of food a day could take it over the edge. You know, meaning now you need a whole new skimmer, right? So just buy the right. To me, it's really important to get the equipment right first, like, and then the animals. People start just buying animals, and they're like, oh, I can just get a bigger skimmer later or a better filter later. It's like, it's kind of weird to me. To me, it's like you take care of the water. Obviously, everything takes care of everything else is easy, right?
Yeah.
But you're right.
It's too big. I'll buy a bigger house.
Yeah, that's it. It's a true. You know how it's, you know, but there's some amazing systems these days. These days, you see a lot of really cool stuff. I love it.
So who are you building for these days? I mean, who's the customer of Bashsea?
It hasn't changed in a while. It's the first time hobbyist all the way up to commercial. You know, and everything in between. You know, we're doing it's zoos. You know, we're doing a big skimmer for the Toledo Zoo right now. We're doing big, you know, stuff like that. So it's very diverse. You know, I'll get emails sometimes from the person with a 70-gallon tank, and they're buying our small biofuge sump or whatever. And then I'm getting the guy with a 2,000-gallon system who needs a big custom bioreactor made, you know, that type of thing, all in the same day. You know, and to me, it's every single person is the exact same of importance to us. You know, because the person who's just got that small $200 sump today might be that guy or gal in 3 years with a 2,000-gallon or 500-gallon that it's going to come back to you for the same thing. So
right. Repeat business.
You know, yeah. So we've always been, you know, we don't sell direct, obviously. So it's all through our dealers. I made that decision a long time ago not to sell direct to the public.
Okay.
So it's a lot harder to go that route, mind you. It's a lot harder to do that. But so we sell to, you know, I would say, I mean, if I was breaking down percentages, you know, I'm going to say, you know, probably still 65, 70% are hobbyists,
okay.
You know, from all the way to really high-end hobbyists. And then the rest is broken down to zoos, public aquariums, hatcheries, like fish breeders, coral farms, like, and then there's that 5% that's really oddball stuff.
Yeah.
That's like, and this has happened quite a bit. And it's really weird. The restaurant that calls that, or the guy who's holding 2,000 pounds of lobster in New York.
Yeah.
And he'll call, and we'll make them these huge skimmers and huge bioreactors. Or the guy with shrimp, like all these weird. I'm like, yeah, sure, dude. You know, we can make you what you want. Tell me what you got. We custom make it for them. So there's always those one-off, you know, situations that are pretty cool. But we've shipped skimmers and bioreactors to Indonesia for coral farms. You know, we've done entire coral farms in Mexico, like really some crazy projects. You know, we did one for the show Tanked. Do you remember Tanked, everybody?
Yeah,
everybody remember that, right? My man Brett. But I think we did like 60 different systems for them. One of them was probably one of the most challenging systems ever. It wasn't a system. It was 17 separate aquariums that ended up going inside. It went to inside the prince's, or what was it? What is it called over there? Is it the prince? Yeah, the prince of Saudi Arabia, like in his palace. So I literally had to design and make 17 separate systems for 17 aquariums that went in the palace with chillers, everything plug and play. Everything had a separate crate. So like
I don't think I saw this episode. This doesn't ring a bell.
It was nuts. I have no. I don't think they either recorded or something where they couldn't or would not allow them to film. Obviously,
that's the worst. I mean, these are the best stories. Like, what do you mean you're not going to share this one? This is so unique.
You should see some of those. I have pictures and video of those systems, and I think Matt knows, just like the Banggai rescue thing. I was doing like sock holders that were shaped like the shark logo of Tank. Like I was doing the craziest shit. Because they know me. Like I don't let anybody design anything for me ever. I most of the time the custom stuff when I do send it out, they don't know what they're getting until they open up the box. They really just let me do my thing. You know, we've done universities. I've done University of Michigan. I've done football teams, baseball team. We're doing the head coach for the Pistons right now. So we're doing a system for him that's going to have the Pistons logo, like all this crazy stuff like that, you know. And that stuff's actually, it's kind of the funnest for me because I get to like do some creative stuff and it kind of, so it just takes a big filter, makes it crazy, you know.
And you get the call from the customer like me who's like, holy.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
What did you? I was not anticipating this.
It's literally my favorite thing because there's a lot of work that goes into these systems. I don't think people realize how, Mark, imagine how, all the intricate parts and the whole welding process and nothing can go wrong. You really got one shot to do it right, you know.
Right.
We've mastered that obviously, but no matter what, it's still like everything is like, it's not easy to build these, you might say. It takes a lot of hands, minds, and machines sometimes. So it takes, all these hours and weeks and sometimes a couple of months to build this system. And then, and you just get that 5-minute email or call saying, "Holy shit, dude, this is like, I don't even want to put this in my stand. I want to put the tank underneath and put your filter on the stand."
I love those emails. That's the best when you say, "I don't want to get it wet. I did a good job." That makes me so happy.
What I tell them? I tell them that's good because it probably won't hold water. I said, do not put water in it. Do not do something. Don't be silly, right?
All right, so let me ask you this. This leads into our next question. What is your material of choice? I don't think you're using acrylic, are you? It's something else?
No, it is cast acrylic.
It is. I saw the black, and I thought that was ABS or PVC, or I thought you were using something different for your stuff.
No, we use really, really high grade cast acrylic for everything.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I've done some other stuff with other material for custom stuff, but all of our sumps are all cast acrylic. Pretty much that's really 95% of everything is cast acrylic because it's the strongest. We can machine it well. It machines really good. You can drill and tap it really well. It holds up to the elements, obviously. It comes in all the colors and flavors and thicknesses that we need and stuff like that. But I've seen like PVC. We've done some of that commercial stuff. If you've seen, some commercial stuff where you'll see like PVC and stuff like that, where it's really strong. It's really, it's a whole different process though. That's a whole different welding and all that stuff. It's pretty cool though. I like it.
Okay, I was sure you were not using. I mean, obviously for the window it's acrylic, but I thought the black and everything else. I thought it was some because I saw it in person in one of the fish stores when I was traveling up north, and I was like, "Oh, this isn't acrylic at all." And I worked with it, but I did not think that was acrylic. I really didn't.
Yeah,
it felt different. It sounded different. I mean, polycarbonate. I don't know what it was, but it did not seem like it was acrylic.
Yeah, definitely never poly. Poly is you can't even laser poly.
I know. I hate this stuff. I can't cut it either. It's such a.
I hate it. I hate that shit. You're right. I'll never touch it, man. But
it's really bad.
But I've used like even flat black acrylic, so I can make stuff look not like acrylic. For texture and look. We've done some.
Maybe that's what I saw was something that wasn't. Standard.
I've done. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff I do to just get a certain look I want, but I always use cast acrylic just because it's the strongest.
And then you do those layers, like where all your tubes go in. You'll glue another little piece of red and then another piece of black on top to create this. I'm like, why is all this extra work in this sump just to hold some tubes? I'm like, wow, I'll never do this.
There's a lot of there's certainly a lot of bells and whistles.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of work to those bells and whistles.
I know.
And it's for surely a lot of it's aesthetic only. It's not for function at all. But when you look at it, man, it looks killer, and people appreciate that. They see those details. I think really what separates any company in any genre or any business is the details.
Yeah.
I think the big stuff is easy. I think the big stuff anybody could do or a lot more people could do. I think what really separates you are the details. The details are really what kind of just set you apart.
Yeah. This is not about me, but I'm just going to throw this out there just as an aside. When I was visiting Next Reef, I saw I was watching them build stuff.
Yeah, I remember that.
He said, "Are you rounding over all the edges?" I was like, "No, I am not doing that." I was like,
He's
like, "Really?" I was like, "No." And I remember one customer telling me once, "I love your stuff, but I have to be so careful installing it because I'll get sliced." And I was
That's
like,
crazy.
I guess I have to start rounding over edges. So I bought a little tiny router with a little tiny bit, and I hit all whatever that is, 16 edges or whatever it is on a cube. And now everyone's like, "Oh, it's so rounded. Your stuff's so much better than the old days." And like you said, it's a detail. It's a minor one, but it's actually a really important one.
It is important one. Yeah, we finish route everything. Yeah, we put 45s or roundovers depending on what model.
Yeah.
One, I think it looks good. One, and you're right, it's less dangerous, you might say. But you can polish flat acrylic and it won't be sharp, and it'll still have a very square look. But you're right. But as you know, acrylic, if it's just route, can cut the crap out of you. It can slice your finger like a razor blade.
Badly sliced. One time, ran the router along the edge of a sump, like where the top piece was on the wall, and I just like buzzing off the excess. And the router lifted slightly, so it didn't quite get all of it, and it left a hair of material. And as I just ran my hand around the edge to get the dust off, I went sliced through all my fingers. And I was like, I got them all in one.
Yeah.
I was like, from what? And I could see this little this little razor edge sticking out, and I was like, ah.
And it really is.
It
will. Yeah, it is a razor sharp. It will cut you instantly. It is so. Yeah.
I should have stock in Band-Aids. I buy.
Yeah.
I'm constantly wrapping my face. I should just wear gloves like a smart man. But
well, yeah, we go through a lot of gloves at the shop because most of the sumps are very sharp until the finish work. So just handling them itself, moving them around. We're moving a lot of sumps, a lot of big sheets that are sharp. So yeah, you got to wear gloves, for sure.
So you're based in Michigan, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. How many folks do you have working in your facility at this point?
Well, we got a few different departments. We have our own welding. We've kind of. So I mean, it's a tough one. Not a lot. I used to have more. I've actually got less now than I did before COVID. Mm-hmm. COVID taught me a lot with employees, and then getting them back. I was like, I'm going to figure out a way with less employees, and because it's impossible to get people to work these days. Especially this kind of work is not normal.
Right.
This is not. We're not making T-shirts. It's pretty specialized, Yeah. But between the livestock room and the welding and the shop, I mean, it might be a dozen or so, but I do I don't want to say outsource, but like my CAD guy comes in for, I don't consider him an employee, but he does all my CAD work. So he'll come in for a couple of days a week, and me and him will sit down with all my custom designs. Yeah. So there's a few floaters here and there that are just as important, but they're not there full time all the time type of thing. And I'm there all the time, that's just what we do. But it's I would like to get less people as possible these days. As a I know maybe that might not sound good, to be honest with you, but as a business owner, really it's tough.
I mean, I know from trying to get people to work in the fish room here, it was just impossible. It's just impossible.
It's very difficult, and I was getting drained training people.
Yep.
And spending a lot of time with them. For months and months, all this time and a lot of mistakes, and it costs a lot of money.
Yep.
And then 6 months later, they're gone. For no reason.
They're finally getting good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Once I can kind of leave them alone for at least a few hours and not pull my goatee hairs out, something happens, and I'm just like, it drains you. It really
Steve,
drains you mentally.
I got to tell you, the only thing I've trusted people with thus far in my business, and I've been doing this a long time, is packing the object. That's it. And when I tell them, I don't care how long this takes you, as long as it's packed well. Because I don't want this to come back, and I definitely don't want to build it again. So, I mean, it's like, you pack this like it's for Christmas, and it's perfect. And when I pick up the box and you shake, you don't hear any movement.
Yes.
And they're just like, okay. And I don't care. Like I said, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, I don't care. As long as it's right.
I tell you what, that is a detail most people don't think about. But packing and shipping is something, when I'm first building this stuff, I wasn't thinking about I have to ship this stuff all over the world.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So then we're getting custom boxes made, foam insert, all this. I had foaming machines, spending tens of thousands of dollars on. There's probably a 1,000 square foot, maybe 1,500 square foot just in shipping with pallet racks, and every box is custom made for that product.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, it's like people don't see it. And I hate that stuff. See, all that stuff I can't. I just want to create, build, and see pictures, and I want to see people happy. All the behind the scenes business crap. It's just, I hate it. I'm never gonna, I'm not an office guy. I got a badass office at my shop, it's sweet, I couldn't tell you the last time I sat down in my office. I could care less about it. If it's not there now, I wouldn't know, I like getting in the shop. I'm one of the guys.
Yeah.
I'm there cutting acrylic and gluing all the acrylic. I'm running the lasers. Mm-hmm. I'm doing all the emails, I stay really personable with the company. I never let it get out of hand to the point where every single email that comes through Bashsea, I answer it.
Yeah.
Everyone, because who's going to be able to answer that question better than me?
Right.
And the last thing I want is the wrong answer to somebody, you know. I think that so, and then so I think that's really important. And that's why I always want the company to stay at that level where we're still, hey, dude, hey, you know, we go to trade shows. Obviously, I've seen all you guys 100 times at every trade show, and you know, those people come up to you, man, I can't believe when you're the one that answered the email. I'm like, well, who else? You know, in my opinion, who else? You know what I mean? So that's pretty important to us.
So we kind of covered it, but I'm going to put it out here officially. What are the biggest challenges as a manufacturer of aquarium equipment? I feel like did we miss something in all that?
No, I would say, well, we talked about employees, right? So let's just put that up there. And I think that's what, I think that's with any company, by the way. It isn't, you know, I'm not saying anything new. Employees right now are tough. Shipping is very difficult and very complicated. I'll be honest with you. But the hardest thing manufacturing is just basically, I mean, especially when COVID hit, man. You know, when COVID, that really was a crazy period for us, you know, because we had two things happen, which was both unexpected to me because there's only been one COVID, so how could I compare it to anything else, right?
Yeah.
Was we got slammed with work. Like I could not, I think we almost tripled in sales for about 2 years straight.
Right.
And we were busy to start. This isn't like, you know, we were already making a lot every single day. So like for example, like we always have about 100 and something sumps, always in stock, boxed up, ready to ship.
Nice.
And every week we're making constant sumps on whatever we're low on, or custom stuff is always on the tables.
Yeah.
That's just sumps. Imagine skimmers, bioreactors, media chambers, frag racks,
waste collectors.
Mark knows that. So like, so imagine all of those, you know, hundreds of them, you know, a couple $100,000 worth of stuff ready to go. Within about like 3-4 months into COVID, we had 0 boxes on the shelf. We literally didn't have one single item in stock.
Yeah.
And I would say about 4 to 6 weeks worth of work on the table was already sold.
Yeah.
So we went almost 2 years with literally just running 7 days a week.
Yeah.
And still not be able to keep up. So that was, but the problem, what happened with COVID, and you guys know this, is that the price of acrylic and the price of plastic, in some cases,
and the boxes
was going,
and the shipping.
Oh well, everything. Yeah, exactly. Paper products.
Yeah.
Some of it was probably legit. I think some of it was
BS.
Bull, you know what, you know. So,
yeah.
I mean, I literally ran out of glue one time because we couldn't even get glue for the acrylic.
Wow.
Like the glue that the very specific glue I use comes from California. So I'm literally scouring the country trying to find any retailer with the glue. I'm buying stuff for quadruple the price. I didn't care, but so there was a time where I think we went a couple weeks where we couldn't even make anything. You know, like because every company was having plastics problem. They couldn't get plastics. They couldn't get the raw material basically. Yeah. And then when they did, it was triple the price.
I'd call my supplier and say, I need some acrylic. I'm like, sorry, it's out of stock. I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And they said the hospitals bought it all. The hospitals, because they wanted barriers, you know?
And I say, and I'm like, hey, what's more important, the stupid hospitals or fish tanks? You know what I'm saying? No, I'm joking.
Now, let me ask you this. You talked about laser quite a bit. I haven't heard you talk about CNCs. Do you have one or more of those in your factory?
Yes. So we have 3 lasers and 1 CNC.
Okay. So
that's how. I used to have no CNC. Again, this was a while ago. Couldn't afford it, and I don't think we even had the room. You know, to be honest with you, until I got my new shop. So. A lot of stuff gets lasered, and some stuff gets lasered and CNC because it's a totally different process. You can't. There's certain things a laser can do that obviously a CNC can't,
right? And
vice versa. There's a lot of things a CNC can do a laser can never do.
Yeah.
So it's a combination of both that lets me do whatever the hell I want, pretty much. But we used to be 1 laser, then 2, then 3.
Yeah.
Because I got bigger lasers, you know, and then we got the CNC. And now we can kind of do whatever we want, you know, type of thing. Yep.
Right.
But the laser, that's what kind of like, I mean, that's really what introduced all this crazy colors and designs was the laser. And this was like 15 years ago. We got our first small laser, and then I was like, wow, I can do all this stuff. You know, I had no clue. So then then my mind really started going, wow. I started designing all these crazy plates for media chambers and cool etchings, and like nobody was doing that back then.
Right.
I don't care what. There's not one company that, besides using color and all that, but nobody was lasering cool shapes into baffles and doing these intricate parts.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about a laser is that whatever it lasers, it also polishes.
Yeah.
So everything looks so nice when it's lasered.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It just melt that beautiful clear look.
Yes. It's perfect. It almost takes the step away from me hand polishing or torch polishing or whatever.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing that really, then I started really getting intricate. And that's really kind of what separated Bashsea, was these crazy designs. And then we got into the CNC stuff for grooves. You know, that's what we really used the CNC was for, really routing grooves to fill them up with glue for the tubes and stuff to go with. And that, now you don't have to do it that way. But to me, it's literally 10 times stronger.
So you're making sockets, basically, where you have a plate, and then you have a like you said, a groove, and you can set the pipe in there and add the solvent, and it'll become It's adhering more than just surface contact. It's actually a lot more contact
all the way around. Yeah. All the way around. Yeah. So you're getting it's way stronger.
Yeah.
And also, picture trying to center a tube on something that without a groove.
Yeah, it'll just
You'd
walk
have
around.
to sit there and measure. Yeah,
and
exactly.
It'll walk around.
So,
you put the glue, you have it perfect. Put the glue and just you're like,
dancing.
No, get back.
It's dancing. Yeah, because you're putting some weight on it sometimes, obviously, and then you walk away for a minute, and it's 2 inches. You know,
I had a
barrier.
whole sump walk off the base.
Oh yeah.
I was so mad. I mean, it wasn't the end of the world, but it was near close to the end of the world for that sump, because there was once I had way too much extra now, and then it was like kind of half off the sheet. I'm like, there's still some contact. Can I make this work somehow?
Yeah. I've had that happen a few times.
Yeah.
Where
I don't let it happen anymore. I'm way more like, I'm babysitting it now until I know it's set.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right.
Yeah, because once it happens once and you ruin a whole sump, you don't forget that. You don't forget that at all. But the groove really helps put stuff together. Like I can run 100 parts. I can have anybody drop in a groove, and every single media chamber will be exactly perfect every single time. Yeah. You know, that again, and when we start getting into shipping overseas, I had to really think about the strength of the product.
Yeah.
It's pretty hard to return a product from Australia or South Africa or India, right? So I had to make it as bulletproof as possible, and for shipping and for just longevity. Yeah. And so it costs more money. It's a lot more steps. It takes more time, but I don't care about any of that stuff. I really care about the end user and you know, and integrity, to be honest with you.
Do you have any kids?
Zero.
I have a kid, and I'll just tell really fast. So we're talking about fixing a sump that breaks. And I had the sump in my living room. Like you said before, I'm building a sump. And I had all these weights on the corner to like weigh it down as the glue was setting. Yeah. And he walks in from outside. He's been skateboarding. He brings his friends in. And they all plop down on all of the furniture everywhere around this sump that's on the table in the middle of the room. And I'm just like, I need you to be really careful around this, please. And they're like, yeah, whatever, boomer. I mean, that's kind of how they acted. Yeah. And I'm just like, anyway, of all the people in the room, my son gets up too fast and knocks the weight that falls in the sump, 3/8 acrylic, and shatters the bottom. Just cracks across the whole thing.
Oh.
So
that hurts.
That customer had to wait longer. I had to tell him, my son just destroyed your sump.
Yeah.
That was nearly done. All I had to do was route off the edges. And then I made my son tape off all the interior and all the exterior, every single compartment, so we could route off and chop off the entire bottom to glue a new one and make the sump like a half an inch shorter than it was.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, instead of wasting the whole thing, right?
Yeah, and I made him help me with every bit of it. He goes, are we done yet? I'm like, no, we're not. You're going to remember never to break stuff I'm building in our living room, because this is how we're putting food on the table.
Yeah,
and he was just like, this sucks. And I'm just like, yeah. How do you think I felt when I watched you shatter that, when I had warned you, be extra? Oh my God, I was so aggravated.
Brutal, man. I've had that happen. everything you're saying is very familiar to me. We've
Even
had
without
weight
having
fall.
kids.
Without, yeah, I think kids, employees, it's the same. Something, no. I've done it myself.
Yeah.
I'll balance weight. Sometimes I'm balancing. Even the weights I got are solid bar steel. Like
I
we
saw them in the picture you sent me.
Oh, cool.
You had these long.
Yeah.
I was like, those are weights. He's got a lot of those.
Yeah, so that's like 2x2 or 2x2.5 by 2.5 solid steel bar.
Yeah, they're heavy.
And they're really heavy, but they're they don't take up a lot of room.
Right, and they take equal pressure across the whole seam.
Yes, yeah, but sometimes we're balancing them on a tight rope. Sometimes on baffles and stuff, and sometimes you bump into the table and smash. You're just like, oh, dude, just because it's so much work to make them.
I know.
And we might be making 50 in a week.
Yeah.
And if one breaks, I cry inside. It hurts. I don't care about the 49 that are perfect. It's like the one that broke is the only one I can think about.
Yeah, I get that completely.
It's not cheap either. Cast acrylic is like gold these days, right?
It really is. And if your company's huge, you're probably buying a lot of sheets at once. It's probably coming in on a forklift.
Pallets.
I'm getting them a few at a time, and I'm hauling them in myself by hand. And they're usually more expensive because I'm not buying in bulk.
It's a lot more expensive, and it's a lot hard. Trust me, I remember those days. I was buying 5 sheets of this, 3 sheets of that. Because 1, it's very expensive. 2, I wasn't selling that much. So why would I buy any more? Right.
And how can you sit on 50 sheets? It's like, where am I going to put 50 sheets for the next 9 months of my life?
Yeah. So now it's different. We're buying full pallets of everything. We're getting hundreds of sheets. We have 3 pallet racks. Every level of pallet rack is a different color and different thickness. So it's a whole different level.
Oh yeah, all the colors. Cool. What a nightmare. You must have so many scraps.
Dude, it's hey, let me know when you need scrap. I got plenty of scrap.
I don't think the shipping would make it worth it for either of us.
Yeah, so imagine because we carry 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch, and 3/8 inch of red.
Yeah.
Of blue, of white, of black, of gray, then we got the custom colors.
Yeah.
We're doing orange, we're doing green, we got yellow, we got purple, all that shit. Oh, it's lifesavers at my shop, with acrylic. So
candy store.
It takes a lot of pallet racking. Pallet racking.
You're like a Home Depot.
100%. It looks like it. You can see in the picture, right? It looks like that pretty much. Yeah. But I remember the days where my one sheet of red acrylic is under every other piece, so I have to remove them, and it's crazy.
Steve,
man.
I have this section of my wall of my garage where I have my CNC, and I'm able to put a sheet and a half along the wall. And so I'm constantly doing the shuffle like you just described.
Yeah.
So about 6 or 9 months ago, I said, that's it, I'm rearranging this garage. I'm going to get myself 2 full-length sheets. So now I can have 8 foot, 8 foot. I can have all the 3/8 here, all the 1/4 inch here, whatever. I'm still moving things back and forth to get to the 3/8 I need, or I need white acrylic, or I need the blue, or I need the black, or I need the polycarbonate, or I need the polycarbonate clear. No, I need the polycarbonate black. It's always 4 sheets behind.
Yeah. It's always the one.
It's never convenient.
No, it's still, and it's heavy, by the way. People don't understand. Sheets of acrylic are heavy,
I know. I just threw one on the CNC yesterday. I believe a 3/8 is 80 pounds. And when you're hoisting it by yourself over your head, put on the table.
It's the shape of it. Yeah, your shoulders, your back, you're twisting. Yeah. We're not 28 years old anymore, so it keeps me in shape. I enjoy it sometimes, but it still catches up with you.
Oh, speaking of getting hurt, so do you still step on your beard?
I'm going to say with a resounding yes. I've stepped on my beard. That my beard gets caught indoors. Oh, you know what? Here's a good story. It caught fire one time at the shop.
Oh my God!
No joke. I wish there was a camera on it. But do you know how lasers work? Like, do you know how a laser works basically?
Generally speaking, yeah.
It's basically a
electricity and a really hot beam, man.
Yeah, it is. But it's an invisible beam.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
So you don't see the laser until the very end, it going into the acrylic.
Okay.
But the laser is still, So I'm like an idiot. I forget I have a 4-foot beard, believe it or not, because I don't really notice it. I live with it. So I'm hovering over a laser that's cutting, right?
Yeah.
and I'm just not even thinking I had to get some. My beard, by its, it just it kind of follows my head, so it threw itself forward right in the beam of the laser and instantly caught fire. And I'm looking down, I'm like, holy shit! And I literally so I cut like 2 feet off my beard that day just with the laser.
You're just beating it on the table trying to put it out.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. Like, I don't think too many people can say, yeah, my beard got, is on fire because of a laser machine. But it's been in every situation you can imagine, I assure you that.
Matt, he told me a story of when he went to do an install and they all squatted down to pick up like a sump or a tank, and his foot was on his beard. When he stood up, his jaw wouldn't go. And he he tried to rip his beard off his head, with that standing up motion. That just sounds so painful.
It happens because you don't feel the beard. That's what people are like. I don't feel it, so I'll be sitting down, and right now it is ridiculously long, and I might be stepping on it and not knowing on it, and when I get up, it literally pulls your chin right off. It's painful. Trust me. I don't recommend growing a 4-foot beard. Let's just.
You need like a big floaty at the end, so if you're trying to step on it, it goes. It does a squeaker sound like a dog toy. Squeak. I need
a big bird bell on the end of it or something. It's dangerous. I don't even know if it's legal anymore in some countries.
All right, Matt. Take us to our next question. I'm done.
Kind of my trademark. Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna look here for a second. We did cover a lot of this. Let's see here. All right. Steve, I want you to just run us through all the different types of like filtration units that you produce and what their purpose is. Just a broad overview of your product line, and then I'm going to ask you, of all of that, what's the one that that no one should be without? And I'm not talking a sump. We obviously know we need a sump.
Sure, yeah.
But of those things, maybe the thing that someone overlooks or doesn't think about. So walk us through what you do and what it does. And
well, so do we start with sumps? Obviously, we have like 5 flavors of sumps now, and a sump I think is pretty self-explanatory at this point, especially for maybe coral readers. But we make, I think, 5 styles of sumps, and every sump has a different design. One is more so for just the Refugiums. Our latest model, the Pro Series sump, is manufactured designed specifically for the roller mat. That roller mat, so it's got a very specific space where you can choose whatever roller mat, and they all just drop in clean. But also, if you don't want to use a roller mat, you can pull it out and still use socks. Like, I just never want to design any sump that forces you to use something specific, because I think Marc understands this really well. I think Matt does as well. It is, to me, that I've never done that. And if here's a sump that you have to use a roller mat, and then it's this and then it's that. But what if every year something changes in this hobby? Every 2 years is a different fad or what have you, right? This is the new hotness. If you don't want to use a roller mat, or your roller mat breaks, or that company went out of business or something like that, right? Which happens a lot. Your entire sump has to go in the garbage. You have to buy a whole new system. So I never wanted to build anything that the customer is stuck with like that. I never wanted to buy one of our sumps twice, to be honest with you. I just want you to buy one sump, and you can interchange whatever craziness you want depending on where you are in the hobby, or even financially, or what have you. But so we have 5 flavors of sumps, from very simple to the more complex, the more advanced hobbyists with all the probes and the dosers and 5 different slides, and every chamber is adjustable, and bulkheads and everything you can imagine. And then we move on to the twisted skimmer. It's just a kind of a miniature a miniature commercial skimmer, just made smaller. It's very heavy duty. It's a very different type of skimmer. It's not your needle wheel, type of hobby grade type of thing. If you ever had one in your hands, and I think, Matt, you have, it's a beast. It's a different level. It weighs 25 pounds of acrylic. It's really a commercial type thing, and it's going to last. I have skimmers that are 15, 18 years old, running systems, and that'll work exactly the same. But
is it a Beckett skimmer?
It's a Beckett skimmer. We have the Beckett's made in Italy. It's a different type of Beckett. That's just been the last like 8-9 years. And then I added a couple different features where the water level never fluctuates. If your sump goes up and down 5 inches, the skimmer never moves.
Wow.
So the skimmer will never overflow, by the way. I'm not sure if any other company can say that. The skimmer will never overflow. You'll never come home and the skimmer's overflowing. It's just impossible. You can install it internal or external. So it's just one of those skimmers that is very diverse. It's a little old school in some facets, but it's also got a lot of modern, new school attributes in it with the pressure plate and the twisted element and all this kind of stuff, mixing air, all that kind of, it's, ozone safe, it's pressurized, it's all cast acrylic and everything. Then we move on to the bioreactor. We talked about that. I just think it's just a biological machine. I think it's my favorite probably the favorite piece of equipment we make, to be honest, or for me.
Well, before you keep going, let me just ask this. So that biological filter, that's there to convert ammonia to nitrate, basically, right?
Yeah.
The skimmer's removing the nitrate. Is there anything else removing the nitrate? Does it become a nitrate factory? Is that a thing?
No, it's not. That's the biggest difference is like, say, like bio balls back in the day. They were just like sedentary. They would, again, water would just barely twinkle over them. Let's be honest, the bio ball has very little surface area, and it's a poor surface area. It's almost too smooth. It's not porous at all. Most of the bio ball never gets wet, and then the bacteria colonizes it, becomes mature, and then goes dormant. So this is exactly what, and a lot of people don't know this about wet dries, is that's the problem with them, is that the older they get, the worse they get. They become less efficient as they get older, and they start holding nitrates and causing those issues because they're not really producing nitrate. They're just not removing any. They're not the water's not biologically being processed, so you're left with all this residual nitrate, and it's got nowhere to go. So
is it really this is an interesting discussion that I didn't anticipate or come to, but like, is it really I'm going to like biopellets and what biopellets do and how they basically, and even carbon dosing, where you're encouraging basically bacteria to grow and consume nutrients and then be removed. Oftentimes we say by the protein skimmer or mechanical filtration, or to be recycled back into the tank. So if I'm really thinking about differences between a wet dry filter and your bioreactors, the wet dry filter, the media is static. It's not being agitated. The old bacteria are not being sloughed off. Whereas whether we're talking coldness or your biomedia, it's
all that
humbled. It's constantly. You mentioned self-cleaning earlier. All that bacteria has to go somewhere, and it's going back into the water column where it can be taken up by coral. It can be trapped by a mechanical filter. It can be removed by the protein skimmer. So the biological filter is still doing its base core nitrification process. But then it's not sitting there like a detritus trap, if you will. And it's always being renewed, and those old bacteria are going and they're being removed. So it's not really removing nitrate itself.
No, but
by the processes. Okay, all right.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't produce it. Like, and also like a wet dry again is so inefficient as far as surface area. So there's just a massive difference in surface area, and the water contact is 100% in a bioreactor or because it's literally in the water.
Right.
And if you've seen wet dries, it's just raining through most of the media. There's very little oxygen because by the time you get to the bottom of the bioballs, live bacteria uses a lot of oxygen. A lot of oxygen. So it actually takes the oxygen away from the fish. So you want to make sure a skimmer will add it right back though. But say in a freshwater tank, you don't have a skimmer. Right? So stuff like that. So 100%. It's basically like biological process, but on steroids. It just does not stop. It's very efficient. It's just really hungry for fish waste. Does that make sense? it's really hard to overwhelm a bioreactor. It's wanting you to have more fish. It wants you to feed the fish more because the bacteria is waiting for that food.
That's
And
interesting.
then the sloth, you know, the slothing of it, or when it runs into each other, and that goes skimmer, coral food. It's so minute and so little, it never hinders, it never touches water quality at all. Where biopellets, which is removing, phosphate nitrate, that has a lot more waste to it. Obviously, the residual effect, which is why a lot of people say, the water coming out of a pellet reactor needs to go to the intake of a protein skimmer.
Yeah, it's true.
Right?
Yeah.
Because that way there's not that waste is at least, and you'll see skimmers go crazy.
Yeah.
Because there's so much there to remove. You don't want that in your water column itself. But that's another piece of equipment we make is the Pellet Master, which is specifically for biopellets. Pellet Master.
Pellet Master. It's a good
name.
They're
great. The names are funny. Twisted Skimmer.
Yeah.
I'm a metalhead, so that probably came from Twisted Sister back in the.
Yeah. Nice.
It's hilarious some of the stuff we say, but yeah. So there's where were we actually?
So that's where you left off. You were going to go to the next piece of filtration. I was just curious about that. I was wondering. So okay.
Yeah. Yep. So I think this one would be media chamber, which is nothing spectacular. I just think it's a basic piece of equipment that and I've seen it used for so many different things, like stuff I wouldn't even think. You know how hobbyists are; they'll be really creative themselves, and you're like, "Oh, that's a great idea, dude." And then I'll remember that for somebody else that might ask or what have you.
So they could use it for carbon. They could use it for GFO. They can use it for Purigen. Some kind of nitrate resin. Yeah.
Or even what's that one product? Like there's is it BioPure or something like that? Am I wrong? Or Siporax? Siporax. I know you've heard of Siporax.
Yeah.
You could put that in a media chamber and just run water. That way you have biological very isolated and not taking up a lot of space. Or you can put that outside your sump. So it at least because it's a pressurized item. So that's why we kind of call it media chamber. You can pick whatever media you want, and do that. Very simple piece of equipment, but it keeps everything organized. A lot of people are OCD, and it's just like you really have control of. One, GFO has different flows than carbon. The amount of carbon you use will have a different flow rate, so you can really, really control the media that you use and get the most out of it in a media chamber instead of throwing it in a bag in a sock where it's not doing shit. Let's be honest.
I hate it in a sock, number one, and I really dislike it in a bag because I feel like that's passive, and you're just hoping water might get to it. And as bacteria grows over the bag, it becomes impervious of water flow, and it's doing nothing in the corner.
Water is going to take the path of least resistance. It goes right over the bag.
Right.
It's not going through the bag.
And they jam it in their baffle, and the water goes over the baffle because it can't get past this bag of carbon. I know.
Yeah, stuff clogs up, and then you're overflowing. You try to force it into spot. We've all done it with floss and all that crap, Yeah. So that's that, and that's been a mainstream. That's been a solid product forever. We sell hundreds of those constantly. So. The Pellet Master specifically made for biopellets, literally, this reactor is only for biopellets, and that's it. It has a very specific pressure plate, the flow, and we worked really hard with. I'm sure you know Dr. Tim. All right, yeah. So I made all his reactors. This was 15 years ago, and he first came out with the NP Pearls, which, in my opinion, is still the best pellet ever. Even though they've been changed a couple times, but they're still the best shape, the best flow, cleanest material. But that became really popular in the hobby. Didn't remember the biopellets just exploded.
Right.
Everybody was using that.
Yeah.
And it's to me it's unnecessary piece of equipment. It's only necessary, I believe, if you kind of design your system wrong, because it's almost like. My filter kind of sucks. I got too many nitrates or my phosphate or whatever. So I need to use this, but if your filter was really designed right, say you had the right skimmer, a good sized refugium, a killer biological process, you're not going to actually ever have those problems. Your phosphate nitrate will all run its course through the refugium for the most part, right? But a lot of people, again, don't have the room for the refugium.
Yeah.
Most people's refugiums are way too small for their tank, and they're not doing that. They're not doing anything. You have, you know.
Do you
So
have a
the
recommendation of refugium size for a system?
ooh, huge. The bigger, the better.
So you have no percentage. Like I always tell them, minimum 10%.
I've never gone through that because I don't think we can prove that. Because when you say 10%, 10% of what? Because
like if the 100-gallon aquarium's on top, I would want a 10-gallon refugium. I want that zone to be 10 gallons.
But here's the thing: what if that 100-gallon tank had 100 fish in it or 10 fish in it?
Yeah, I can't answer that.
But that's what I'm saying. There's so many variables and all this crap, and I think most people kind of overlook the critical things that really get water right. You know, like the refugium. I love refugiums, man. I've always been a huge because I think it's a natural process. The bugs and the critters that come with it are by itself are really cool.
Right.
Let alone, I think it really helps. Here's what I think it does. I've said this. I don't know if you ever heard it before, but I think it creates what I call live water. You know, instead of sterile, dead, zero water, like the refugium creates live water.
Yeah.
And I think in the ocean, the water is alive. There's so many things in the water in the ocean that are alive that corals feed on. Yeah. And I think the refugium really mimics that the best, the closest we can do it, man, in a closed system. Because it's regenerating these bugs that are all their babies. You know how this works. It's so, but most of it, but you're right though. Like I think even 10%, if we just generalize stuff, you know, I think even 10% is kind of small.
It is, but I mean, there's only so much room in the sump. But I'm like, minimum 10%.
Exactly right.
Is what I was saying.
100%. Yeah, because have you seen some of these, like, you know, a 5-foot sump, 300-gallon tank, and this refugium is like 6 inches, but it's like, dude,
I know.
You're not doing shit, guys. I'm sorry. You're not doing nothing. You're reducing 1 nitrate per month. Like, just get rid of it. You know.
You're just growing some macroalgae for funsies. Yeah.
I think you're better off not having a refugium, unless it's of a decent size. Yeah. Because you know, I just don't think its residual effects are any good at a way too small of a size. You're better off getting. I think you're better off going more mechanical, like more sterile laboratory type of filter system at that point. But if you have room for a big refugium, I think it's only beneficial, man. And that's including everything, any kind of fish tank.
So what do you think works better then, to go that more natural approach?
Yeah.
When it sounds like you're almost talking about the refugium as another form of filtration.
Well, for sure it is. It definitely is a filter.
Because we have mechanical filtration, we have biological filtration, we have chemical filtration. Yeah. Do we need a fourth category of filtration?
Well, I think the refugium is I think in a weird way. I mean, it is a biological filter if you really want to break it down.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Yeah.
Because it exports. You know, it absorbs, and then you pull out the plants. You've exported.
Yeah. And then it releases a lot of things too. So it's also releasing. But can it be called a chemical filter? Because isn't it absorbing nitrate and phosphate and iron and all that stuff as well? So isn't that almost isn't it like the most natural carbon or what have you? You can it's absorbing. Yeah. It's absorbing what we don't want, and it's releasing what we do want. Yeah. So there's not too many downsides to refugium unless there's too much flow through it, or you know what I mean. It's just designed wrong, right? You know that because too much flow is not good either, because the water has no dwell time for anything to do anything.
And if you ignore it and you let the plants die, then all that breakdown makes your water worse.
100%. I mean, we can compare it to the bioreactor. If you just leave algae to grow, you know, as it's growing, it's absorbing a lot of nutrients very fast, and then it becomes one big pile. It's not growing anymore. Right. So if it's not growing anymore, it clearly can't absorb as much as when it was growing. So you're right. The refugium has a little bit of maintenance to it. You know, you take out 10-20% a week or whatever, and it's constantly regenerate. It's like clipping a plant, right? Yeah. When you clip it, it wants to, or cutting your hair or whatever, right? You know what I mean? Yeah. Or trimming your beard. If you trim your beard,
lasering your beard
with the laser.
Yeah, for sure. No, but but go back to your question. I like both of those systems. I think there's good and bad about both of them. But I think, there's the Refugium has its maintenance. It does. It's gonna be a more nutrient rich environment, right? So that might be really good for soft corals and certain corals that really enjoy that type of life. But some people say with acro tanks, like heavy acro, they want really sterile, they want to really control everything. That might be something that, and they even want to control all the food, so they don't even want to Refugium because they want to really control every drop of that water. That might be the more laboratory clinical system that will work for that type of thing. Or fish only. Go ahead.
Which do you find is more stable and easy to work with?
Oof. I think the more stable one, that's a tough one, because I think they both can be unstable and stable depending. I think a lot of that really comes down to the hobbyist maintenance on the equipment. Because no matter what you have on the very high tech filter, if that's not maintained to perfection, it's a disaster, right? If one probe stops working, or this valve opens up, or too many biopellets, now the water is overly stripped and you're washing corals out. But if a refugium isn't maintained, if your skimmer is not maintained, if you're not cleaning your socks often, or then you have this other issue, with over too many nutrients and algae all over the place. But a lot of that stuff, I think, it's not answerable like, hey, this system is better than this one. I think the end user and how it's maintained is really how that, because both systems, we both know, can be absolutely incredible. Absolutely. And both systems can have the exact same results if they're maintained and designed right.
That's the hardest part for a hobbyist, because they see two different ways of doing something and they both work. Like, I just want to know which one to use. They get frustrated.
Yeah, that's a killer point, Mark, because I tell you what, well, these days you're going to see 10 different ways to do with something. Everybody looks at this awesome tank on Instagram. Yeah. What's he using? Yeah. Because that's clearly the only thing that matters. Yeah. Guess what? It's like, it's kind of like music. If Eddie Van Halen's playing the guitar, and then you give that same guitar to another great guitarist, it's not going to sound the same.
Right.
So I think the end user really defines. It's all the little intricate things that these hobbyists do that never get talked about, that people don't see.
Yeah.
And those are the devils in the details.
Yeah.
Those are what separate those systems. But yeah, you can have 10 different systems, if they're maintained right and designed right, are all going to end up with amazing results. Yeah, because we've seen it 1,000 times. You can go on you guys have seen it 1,000 systems. Yeah. And you're not going to see the exact same system. I guarantee you, every time you see a really killer tank, there's something about that you're like, oh, he's doing that.
Yeah.
And it's just working for him. Doesn't mean it's going to work for you.
No, you're right. And there's times where it just seems like you're breaking the rules. I'm talking to Chris Meckler a couple days ago, and he said, Mark, I don't know how you do it. I'm like, what are you talking about? He says, you are growing hammer coral and frog spawn in your reef. I'm like, yeah, I know. I've always done that. He's like, that's not possible. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, SPS needs so much flow. And I'm like, well, I have them in areas where the flow's low. He's like, no, you don't. Because I just sent him a bunch of Frammer, the one that looks like frog spawn and hammer.
Yeah.
And he had, and he cut them all individual polyps and put them all in separate frag plugs. And he said, the growth of this thing was insane, Mark. I don't understand how that lived and how it kept skin on it, because it grew the mouth or the head or whatever to like super long oblong and like stretched, and it just stayed alive. It wasn't dead. He's like, that's insane. That's how much flow you have. And I was like, I'm looking at the tank like, it doesn't look like that much flow to me. But,
you're used to it.
Like I said, apparently I'm breaking rules. I don't even know I'm breaking.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. Like, that works for you, but take that same coral in somebody else's tank.
Yeah, wouldn't work for Matt. Yeah.
Toast. You know what I mean? Yeah.
One word answer.
He's not a euphilia guy.
Yeah.
Just throwing it out there as an example.
That's awesome. No, you're right. I think it's not a bullshit answer. I'm not trying to jump around the answer, but I'm trying to be honest with it. That I don't want to tell people there's one way to do something, because I would be lying. Like, if you like the Refugium look, if that's your thing, then let's design a system around that type of. If you're and I get people all the time. I want to buy everything you make. I want to look like a laboratory because they see somebody, you know, they like that shit. They're the guy again who has a hot rod. They want that engine, every piece to be chrome and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And I'll be, you know, so there's that person. But if it's designed right, it will work, you know, really well as well. I think, you know, the hobbyist really kind of forms that, you know, in my opinion. And there's, I mean, you know, there's a lot of options out there, you know.
Well,
but
basically what you just said was you can tell me what you want, and then we'll design a system for success based on what you're starting with.
Yeah, for you.
With these core units, we're going to build you a successful filter.
Okay. Yeah, are you a busy guy? Are you how much maintenance do you want to do? Right. Is there a budget? All that stuff, you know, right? I mean, because it's like, hey, you might want the world, but if you can't, you know,
can't afford it.
Costs money. Yeah, so it's like, well, you know, do you want to get your hands wet, or do you want to really like, hey, I want hands off? Yeah. Those are two completely different systems on the same tank. Yeah. You know, same gallons, same everything. So like, I try to like personalize every system to that individual, because I think that way they really get what they want. And I don't just throw a generic, oh, just this and this and this and good luck. You know, I really want to break it down to what do you really want to do here, and let's design something for that. Yeah.
That was great, Matt. I can't wait to see you write this. He's giving you gold, man. He's giving you nuggets. I hear the words typing on the screen in my mind.
I can't wait to read it. I can't wait to critique the shit out of it. You know what I mean? It's gonna
be good. I don't think we asked this, but do you have any specific differences when it comes to filtering a fish-only tank versus a reef tank?
I think Matt did ask that, didn't you?
Oh, did you already have one? All right,
you basically said no. You said no.
Yeah. There's really no difference. There really isn't.
No. So far down the list, I didn't think we touched it yet. I'm sorry. I knew there was one I missed earlier.
I mean, the only thing would be like on a fish-only system, I tend to always a lot oversized or larger bioreactor, because I know that's the only living heartbeat of the biological, because everything else is literally artificial most of the time, right? Especially imagine like those, you know, the artificial coral tanks where there is nothing going on, man. But so, you know, we tend to try to just really get the largest possible biological bioreactor. And sometimes we even add a media chamber with Saporax because it takes up less space as a secondary biological option, because you can't have too much biological. And what happens most of the time with these artificial tanks or artificial reefs or fish only, they put a lot of fish in them. Yeah. A lot of fish, and they overfeed a lot. Yeah. So that's a slight difference, where a reef tank is going to be a little bit more stable water quality wise, because it's a little more of a natural water. Yeah. Where we just get the correct size biological reactor and skimmer and all that stuff. So the fish onlys, we just go heavy on the bio as, again, that safety net. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Sorry, didn't mean to ask a question twice.
That's okay.
Matt, just take a mental note. I loved that you talked about living water, and I'm just going to throw this into the conversation where he can just agree so you can say he said it. But if a diver goes in the ocean at night with a flashlight and points it up, everything's moving. There's bugs everywhere. It's insane. It is literally living water. And we see the proof just in the ocean.
I've called it, I just call you want to create live water. Yeah, I think that's I've been saying that forever. And it just, to me, it just makes the most sense. Yeah. And it's hard to mimic that in a closed system when you really think about it. You know, and a Refugium really does that. Let's be for real. Like, that's the closest thing we can do to live water. And the bioreactor helps a little bit like as well with the live bacteria going back into the water.
In the old days, we used to see all kinds of posts in the forums where people saying, "What is this thing that was swimming through my water in the dark? I took a flashlight and it went really fast." And you hardly hear that now because everything's dry rock, dry sand, a few frags, a few fish.
100%. Yeah. Back
they're not getting the bugs from the live rock.
Everything was live rock back in the day. Remember Fiji live rock? Yeah, it was the Caribbean. It had. Christmas tree worms on it. It had crazy stuff. Like, it was almost, you didn't want to cover it. It was beautiful, and it came with a lot of life, good and bad, right? Yeah, that was not, but you're right. Everything now is sterile, dry, dead, from the get. So we have to create that live water, and I think that's the best water for any type of, I don't care what it is, a fish only, reef, soft coral hog. There's nothing better than live water, as long as the parliaments are correct. As long as the water quality is good, you add that live water. I mean, look at all these companies now that sell all these bugs in a bottle.
Yeah.
$1 million companies, right?
Yes.
And you're just constantly throwing, phytoplankton. This is a huge industry right now. Huge, just for that. Again, that's live water, because you have dead water. You're trying to introduce life to it.
What's your philosophy of filtration?
I mean, we're just literally recycling water. I mean, that's to me, that's what filtration is. It's a circle. This drop of water is going in a circle. It starts at the fish. We know what happens, and we're just trying to get, by the time it comes back to the fish, that it's pure water again. We're basically just trying to. I mean, it's so important, because I just think, we're responsible for these amazing little lives in these aquariums. I think it's a pretty serious thing when you got some very rare fish and coral, and obviously a lot of them are taken out of the ocean. So I just think, taking care of them is very important. When a fish dies, I think that really sucks. That's not a little. It's a big deal to me, I think, still. But the philosophy is just basically, God, for filtration is just. I don't know if this is philosophy or not, but it's just. We're just recycling the same water, but making water pure. But that's not really what I'm trying to word it right. It's in my head. It's not coming out, but. Well,
if I could make a little kind of comparison, it kind of reminds me of scuba divers that wear the rebreather.
Okay.
It's recycling their air so they can stay down and not blow the bubbles out.
Yeah.
And it filters it as it comes back into their mouth again.
Yeah, that's what we're basically just taking the same water. This is don't even write anything like this, but if you're stuck somewhere and there's no water, you got to drink your piss. You know what I mean? Right, which has happened. You want to piss in this cup of yours, and by the time it drains out the bottom, you don't want it to be piss anymore, right?
Yeah. You want to filter.
Right? Is that what we're trying to do?
Yeah.
It's funny, like the fish, everything. Yeah, you could say everything in the tank is pooping and peeing 24/7 in the water it lives in. So you're gonna keep it as pure as you can. Well, it's funny. Pure is not the right word, but but healthy. It's that water's got to be healthy. It's
like, I'll put it this way: like, if a fish, the filtration should be removing waste and replenishing nutrients at the exact same rate as it's being produced, if not faster, right? Because if there's any lag in that, then we're slowly poisoning that water, and we're slowly hurting that animal somewhat mentally. Right? If you're stuck in a room and there's a slow gas leak, but there's an air filter in that room that removes it, but that filter stops working, you're slowly you're just gonna die of that gas. So it's like
slowly poisoning them. Yeah.
But to me, it's just like I'm manufacturing and designing a constant water purifier. We're just, whether it's saltwater, freshwater, we're just purifying water at the same exact speed as it's getting degenerated. Right? Does that make any sense a little bit? We want, you want to create the best possible environment for these captive animals, because that's our job. So I take it pretty serious. That's how I go. I went back earlier. Your questions were great with, hey, can a filter be too big? It's like, no. How can the water be too clean for these animals? Because if a fish could talk, it's not going to say, this water is way too clean, dude. You got to shut off that skimmer. I'm just manufacturing a constant saltwater purifier that is keeping up with the waste at the same rate, if not a little bit more. It's
with capacity to spare.
Absolutely, yeah. If the number is 50, that the tank is producing 50 parts of this, I want a filter that is ready for 80 parts. So that way, there's never any dip in water quality So there's at no point is that fish going through any unnecessary stress or coral. Because I think that's what we should give a shit about. That's what we should care about. Like, again, these animals are sensitive. What we're doing is not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy. These animals are not easy, as you know. Like,
right.
So anytime something happens, that fish just, I don't know why it got sick, it just died. No, there's a reason it got sick. It wasn't, you know, it's because your water sucked or your temperature went up and down or you feed shitty food or, you know, any of that stuff or combination of all of that, right?
Right.
That's nutrition, that's water quality, and that's on us, you know? So that, you know, when I see stuff like that, I'm like, oh, that hurts, man.
That's why filtration matters.
Filtration. It's to me, it's all about the water, if that makes any sense. It's all about the water. That's it. However you get there, but take care of the water. Where do we think filters are going to be in 10 years from now?
Mm-hmm. It's a great question.
Because look where they were 10 years ago.
What does filtration not do today that you would want it to do?
Well, I guess, well, at last, or I think personally what's going to be the future, I think a couple of things. I think you guys will agree, because I think maybe some of it's happening now, is automation. I think automation is going to be a lot more prevalent 5 years from now than, because you know how everything's moving very fast now. So 5 years from now, it doesn't sound like a long time, but dude, 5 years from now, technology-wise, is going to be a lot different than 5 years. Look at 5 years ago, I always say. Look how much has changed, you know, with robots and automation. Stuff we would think, no way it's happening, is happening. You know, when there's drones dropping off boxes at my house, that's just shit you're like, no way, that's never going to happen. Yeah. Oh, there's flying cars? Go to Dubai, there's a flying car. Like, what is going on, right? You know? Yeah. So I think automation is going to be a big one, but the simple form of it, meaning like, because a lot of this stuff is so overly complicated and sensitive because it's just not ready for it. We are all the guinea pigs, by the way. All the hobbyists are guinea pigs for what they're using right now. Yeah. So, and that's the feedback comes from the hobbyist, and the hobbyist funds the next technology. Yeah. You know, that's the way this works, by the way. You know, there's version 1, which is garbage, but it's a good idea, but we have to sell 1 million of them. Yeah. So hobbyists tell us how good it is or how much it sucks. Mm-hmm. And also the hobbyists funded the R&D for the next version, right? And then, you know, I think there's a few companies I'm not going to mention that do that shit now, but like, so I think that, and like, I want to say, like, I even want to go the opposite way of simplistic, very simplistic and highly efficient systems. Meaning there's going to be the system that's like ridiculous, automated, you know, but I think there's the opposite system that might be coming up that will be very, very simple, like almost look like it's not doing anything, but it's just as efficient as the crazy one. And that's for that user who doesn't want 50 things to babysit. Right. They want 3 things to worry about, and all 3 of them are very efficient, easy to fix, easy to replace. You know, almost like just a very simple, because I think we're going to get to a point where it's too much, man. Yeah. You know what I mean? Can you kind of see it now? So there's so much, you know, it's like, oh, it's just too much, and it's too expensive. Mm-hmm. I think that's another problem, I'll be honest with you, is, man, the price of this hobby, you know, it's elite. Mm-hmm. You know, everybody, you know, every really nice aquarium, literally with its equipment and lighting and the cost of animals, is a Porsche. You know, it's a car. You know what I mean? Like, so.
Wait, how much is a Porsche? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I'm just like doing
that.
But
I think some of the future will be, you know, man, because right now the prices are just climbing. So, you know, I'm hoping that kind of comes back to reality a little bit, so maybe more people can enjoy this hobby. Right. And I think those are the people that will have the simplistic type setup, but still efficient enough to enjoy the animals. The animals can be, you know, the animals will still be healthy. And then there's always going to be the crazy. Yeah. There's always going to be the absolute insane end. Like, I don't care what, there's always going to be the extreme.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love it. But I think that, simple, more affordable, high efficient stuff, I think is kind of maybe the future as well. Because I think every year we're all going to get smarter, and every year we're all going to know what works better or best, and it's going to get simpler in a way. And I think that type of system, I think will be really cool to become popular.
Well, here's a thought for your 10-year prediction that I'm thinking possibly could happen, and it might
solar
put
power.
It might put you and me out of business.
Hey, I'm good. I'm tired, man. I'll be 10 years.
What if people had like a huge 3D printer, not these cute little ones. Literally, it's like your whole kitchen table, like that size. And they just print an all-in-one filtration system. It just comes to life. It has a skimmer part of it. It has it all just builds all the way up, and you just literally print it, shove it under the tank, add water.
Yeah.
Didn't have to buy anything.
I think that's possible. I think that, as crazy as it sounds, it's not that crazy. Yeah. You know what I mean? I think there's 3D printers that can do a lot of very intricate stuff. So, and 3D printers, again, let's just say 10 years from now, look how far they've come. Seriously, in the last 10 years, it's really, so 10 years from now is insane. It might be like, everybody has a high definition TV. It's like, who doesn't, or whatever. Everybody might have a 3D printer.
Yeah.
Because they might be 3D printing a whole bunch of household shit too, not just you,
ice
right?
Scoop. Like whatever you need.
Anything.
Yeah, it's insane.
But here's the thing: I think a 3D printer too. We're not even talking fish anymore, but it kind of are. But a 3D printer in 10 years, I might be able just to talk to it and describe something, and AI could design some shit, right? Yeah. And it's just going to make it. We're not going to need to be like CAD designers and need to work. I think software, all that shit's going to go away.
It's going to be like this.
All going to get replaced.
Hey Siri, I need a Bashsea sump, 48 inches by 20 inches by 16 inches.
Yeah.
I want an integrated skimmer. I want no refugium. I want space for a 2-inch foam block.
Yeah.
And it just spits the dang thing out by morning.
And Siri will say, Mark, what color would you like? And that's it,
You're right.
And then you come back in 6 hours and you're good to go,
Yeah.
But
I think Siri, why didn't you paint it?
Well, am I wrong? But there's a lot of 3D parts right now getting manufactured in this hobby.
Yeah, car parts. I heard they're printing stuff. I know they're printing resin now. Not just plastic, but like resin. Things that are completely inert. There's a lot of
so I think 3D printing will become, that's a good point you brought up, because 3D printing, I think, we'll make a lot more stuff in the future. Just, it's all those like custom crazy little parts that you don't want to you go overseas, you need to make 10,000 of them, but you might only sell 1,000 of them. Or you can just 3D print them as you sell them, and there's zero waste.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's zero
and if it's not right, you can make a slight adjustment, print the next one, and get that one perfect.
Well, because imagine if you had 10,000 that were wrong. Right. So I think 3D printers, I think, are going to make a lot more parts in this hobby. Even brackets, frag racks, intricate little, all that. But they're making them now, and I think that's just going to get more elaborate and more complicated.
That's what I'm saying. 10 years from now, might not be working. Might be looking at these guys printing their stuff, saying, "You printed it wrong. What's wrong with you?"
I'll think of something cooler anyway. I don't care. Well, I was just going to say that those are the two things. I think we're going to get like super heavy, complicated automation, where I think everything, you're just going to look at your phone and the whole tank is automated, man. You know what I mean? It's even way more so than now. We're talking auto cleaners, auto flushers, the auto feedings, like everything. Water testing is happening continually and always. Like right now, this minute, my pH is this. Right now, my nitrate is this. It's a constant meter. It isn't just like whenever, I think that's going to be big time. And then I think the opposite will happen. I think simple, just really simple, easy for people to understand for that person, and keeping it somewhat affordable, because it's certainly going the opposite way right now.
So we didn't really talk much at all about mechanical filtration.
roller mats.
So roller mats, filter socks. There are other forms of mechanical filtration.
Sure.
I know that you use socks in your sumps. Do you manufacture a roller mat yourself?
I have all my socks are custom made for us in the U.S.
But you're do you have a roll? Have you designed and created a roller mat? No. Okay.
Nope. And I never will. I thought about it for a minute, but that whole industry or that fad was changing so quick that I didn't want to get involved on spending so much money. And then 6 months later, there's a better one or a better idea, and all this shit is obsolete. So I'll just build the sumps that whatever roller mat you pick, because everybody has, hey, I want a Red Sea, I want a Clear Sea, I want a whatever you got, whatever you want. And we don't know what's coming out next year, do we? There might be a roller mat that crushes all of these. Trust me, somebody is working on stuff right now that's better than everything that's out there right now. You always have to remember that. Somebody is working right now on something that's way better than what you know. And so that's going to come out eventually. Yeah. So I just want to build systems that all of that, anything that comes out that's new and killer, that my systems adapt to that immediately. So I try to stay on that route instead of being pigeonholed into something,
I'm going to put it to you a little bit more direct.
Yeah.
You really just kind of glossed over mechanical filtration to the point where I have to wonder, do you even feel it's all that necessary in a reef type system?
I actually do. I do think it is. I think it's pretty important. I just think it's so simple that I don't think about it much, right?
Okay.
Socks, floss, a roller mat, any of that I think is good, because I think no matter how clean your system is, that it's amazing what always ends up inside these socks, or what ends up. I've seen some, bare bottom reef tanks. They look like hospitals, but there's that mechanical is catching a lot of that. So I think mechanical is really, really important, and that stems from me doing koi systems where mechanical is one of the most important part of that system, because there's so much waste produced by large koi that you have to deal with that right, because if you don't deal with mechanical right, it messes up everything else after that. So I think mechanical, as simple as mechanical is, it's not sexy or whatever besides the roller mat, that I think it's just as important as everything else. I think mechanical filtration, I think, is, if you had a system just ran with no mechanical filtration, I just think every month, every week, you're going to get a buildup somewhere of something, and that's slowly going to catch up to the system. And eventually you're going to have a crash, or you're going to overhaul it. And I think slowly but surely that's going to hurt the water quality, and then we go back to it hurts the animal. Right. But no, I think mechanical is just as important as your skimmer. It's just as important as your biological, because they're all working together. I know they're all separate units, but the end goal is the same, and I think each one plays a very important part in that water.
I tend to think that the stuff that's blowing around in the tank is food for something. So I actually don't run any kind of socks whatsoever.
Yeah.
The skimmer either gets it, or there is some settling in the sump, or it's back in the reef on the sand where I have to siphon it out.
For sure.
Every year.
Well, that's it. Yeah. And in every system, if you have sand, again, if you have certain animals in the tank and certain corals in the tank that would benefit from, you might be better off without mechanical. That system needs that, because it's actually its own reoccurring food, you might say.
Yeah.
And there might be a little bit more maintenance to those, obviously, because no matter what, you're not going to get it all. But again, that's the end user, right? That the end user really, it comes down to that person. It really does.
Okay, so you talked about ozone briefly. You talked about your reactors could handle it.
Yeah.
You didn't mention anything about UV. Do you build any sumps where UV is integrated and built in, or do they just add it to the top of it? Or
and I've seen that, and I like the way some of that looks, but I just don't. Again, because I never want to build anything so specific that, I'll put it this way, some people want covers over their sumps, like a fitted cover over this area.
Right.
But realistically, if I sell 100 sumps, I might get 1 or 2 people that want that.
Yep.
So I don't want the other 99 people to pay for that.
Right.
When, I'd rather just build the custom one for that dude, right?
Yeah.
Then so the whole integrated anything to me, I stayed away from. I could easily do any of that, clearly. There's nothing we can't do, right? But everything costs money, and if somebody wants if somebody wants a UV, let them buy the UV integrated to their system. Because if they don't want a UV, then they wouldn't buy my sump that has one built in, right?
Right. Because it's wasting a section that they can't utilize now too.
Exactly, and it's a very specific section that you can't make anything else.
Right.
That's very specific. But I've seen those, so like, I think it's awesome when that customer wants exactly that. Then I think it's sweet.
All right.
But I have to go on the 95% of people, not the 5%.
All right. One more question. Algae turf scrubbers. What's your opinion?
Oof, man. I've gone up and down up on this one. To be 1,000% honest, I used to think they were shit.
Matt, that's a quote. I'm kidding.
Okay, yeah.
Well, it will be. I used to think they were ship.
Yeah, poops. So I used to
think
I was
a pile of ships.
Yeah, I think they've come a long way though. So some of my opinion has changed. I think, like, let's remember the first ones that came out. Maybe salt creep, high maintenance. A lot of electricity, high heat. There's a lot of stuff going on with those that I thought did not trump how good they might have worked. And man, if you didn't dial them in right, they weren't doing anything. But I've seen some recently, the last couple of years, that are designed. Obviously now they've become more popular, so they're designed better. So I've seen some now that are, I think, pretty cool. I don't think they're as good as a Refugium. I think it was like, they're okay in certain situations where you don't have a lot of space, right? That type of thing. So I think everything has its purpose and spot.
Could that one work with your sump system that is mechanical based with no refugium? Would that be the one to try and incorporate an algae turf scrubber then?
Well, again, that's going to be like, it certainly will never be the same as a refugium. So, because the algae turf scrubber is very specific to what? Just removing nitrates, phosphate,
That's
right?
what I hear. It's supposed to lower nitrate. I haven't seen that happen, but it's what it's supposed to do.
That's what I mean. Like, I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of them. I'm still not a fan. I just think for what they are, what they cost, the maintenance of them, I don't see it worth it. I don't see like the results. Again, I know some people love them. I get all that, but there's somebody that loves everything, right?
Okay.
But I'm not the biggest fan of them. They're certainly not a refugium because they're never going to create the live water like a refugium. There, it's almost impossible.
Right.
But hey, if you have like crazy limited space, they don't take up a lot of space. So the good thing is they don't take a lot of space. And I think if a good quality one that's maintained and set up right, I think would do really well. Yeah. Is it any different than a pellet reactor?
Well, pellet reactor is going to be dealing with bacteria, where turf scrubber is dealing with algae. I mean, you're trying to grow stuff as fast as you can and export it out in 10 days.
But the purpose of the algae scrubber is to what?
Well, it's to lower the nitrate.
Nutrient export.
Yeah.
And that's what pellet reactors do, is what I'm saying, right?
All right.
So like you're removing nitrate, iron, phosphate, because algae is going to remove a lot of stuff.
True.
Whether you like it or not, it's going to remove some stuff you might.
Yeah.
It has to have it, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to remove. So I think they're similar. One is more of a natural process. One is more of a mechanical, clinical process. But like I said, I think the ones they make now are a lot better than before.
Sure.
Personally, not the biggest fan. I won't make them. Obviously we've been asked to make all this stuff, and so I'm only going to make something that I really, really know works. Yeah. And that is maybe for the masses, and something that I would use. If I would use it, then I'll make it.
Yeah.
If I'm not going to use it, I'm not the kind of guy who makes crap that I don't make stuff just to sell it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Hey, this is the popular thing. Good. It might not be popular next year, so I'm not going to touch it.
Yeah.
That type of thing.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure they probably make some huge algae scrubbers, like commercial ones that work really well. But you know, some of these really, really tiny ones, I've seen, man, there's a lot of stuff going on in those, and it just seems like a lot of a lot of stuff for not that much result, in my opinion. You know?
Yeah, I agree. If it's really small, I have my own doubts. You know, I of course I do, because they're just they're so cute.
Yeah,
you know?
That's what I mean. I think they
Refugium, you know.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, so I think they're cool looking. You know, if there's one thing that you should get or look into, or it would be the bioreactor. I think once you have one, you'll understand it really easy, and you won't build a system without one.
Okay.
Because we do so many, like you were asking before, who do we sell to? A ton of custom design aquarium maintenance groups. These are guys who design and set up aquariums all over the place. We ship that's a very high percentage. And there's never a system, once they use a bioreactor, they never ever even design a system without it, because they're like, those are the most stable systems. The customer loves them. The fish are happier. They can feed more. And you know, for a maintenance company, that's that's a hard, you know, they're not feeding the fish. So that's like, so to me, the bioreactor,
and they're not there all the time, you know.
They're there once a week, once every 2 weeks.
Right.
So they have to create this perfect water without being there. You know, that's not easy, right?
Yeah.
So the bioreactor, and we're the only company that makes it, and I've been doing it since was one of the first pieces that we made. It's nothing new, but we still make a ton of them. So the good thing is clearly everybody who has them likes them, and more people are using them. But I think you'll really like the bioreactor. It is an awesome piece of equipment.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Steve. We really appreciate you coming on with us tonight. And we had a really interesting discussion.
I really appreciate you guys. This is really cool. I'm really excited to see the result, and I think it's just really cool. You guys have been around forever, so we're all OGs here.
Hi, everyone. We want to welcome... Hi, everyone. We are interviewing Steve Bashi of Bashsea. Bashi of Bashsea. I can't say it right. There's one more time. Just keep laughing as I talk.
Steve Bashi from Bashsea.
Yeah, that's hard to say. Yeah.
It's like a tongue twister. It's a tongue twister.
One more try.
It is. All
right, here we go.
I do swear once in a while, you know, so, you know, cut that. You don't have to say.
You know, Matt's going to put the cuss words in the article. I mean, it's verbatim. Okay, so are you ready to cuss right now? Because I got something to show you. Are you ready?
Fuck yeah, let's do it now. Go ahead.
You totally did it.
No way, dude.
What do you think of that?
Wow.
Front cover.
Bro, that's a big deal to me. I'll be honest with you. It's a big deal to me, man.
I wanted something amazing on the front cover.
There's not much that can make that better unless it was just like some boobs. Can you put boobs somewhere in there?
Matt, we can Photoshop those in, right?
We could put blue-footed boobies in like the corner somewhere.
I was going to say pink boobies, the zoanthids. Just put them around the edges.
Yeah. We'll call this is the Boobsy Factory is what we're going to call it from now on, you know?
I love it.
Dude, that's really cool, man. That honestly, that means a lot to me, and my guys will love it. That's really cool. It's been a long time. I've been doing this my whole life, so that means a lot, man. And Coral Magazine is the best.